Good morning, HitPoint friends, or good afternoon, or good evening, or whatever time of the day it is when you're watching this video. Today is finally the day. Today is the day that I will be reviewing Hamilton. But before I get to the review, I want to remind you there is a video that I recorded showing the criteria I'm going to have for my movie reviews. The link for that is in the description down below, or it should be, I think, right here? Maybe? But yeah, click that if you want to see what my criteria are. I go into greater detail of just how I'm going to be doing my movie reviews, the categories I'll be reviewing, and what is the criteria within each category, and just how I'll score things. So yeah, like I said, that link is in the description below, or you can click the card that popped up. Also in the description down below is a link to our Patreon if you want to support us on there. Right now we just have one tier where it's just $5 a month and you get your name into the credits of these videos. So yeah, that link's also in the description below if you want to support us. We always appreciate if you crush that like button and subscribe. But enough with that, let's get into the review.
Into the mainland, get your education, don't forget from whence you came, and the world's gonna know your name. What's your name, man?
Alexander Hamilton.
So, Hamilton. Hamilton is a show that has had so much hype. Ever since it was announced that it was going to be on Disney Plus, people have been waiting and anticipating to be able to watch it because not very many people in the United States have gotten to actually see this show yet. Originally, it was actually going to be released in theaters in the fall, but due to the pandemic and everything, Disney decided to work with Lin-Manuel Miranda and bring it earlier on Disney Plus so people could watch it while at home. And so there was so much hype and anticipation. So, my review, I'll be honest, I think my review, once you get to the end of this, is going to be a little controversial compared to popular opinion. You'll see as we get into that, but let's start off with some good things. Let's start there. So, let's talk about the first category, artistry. Hamilton is such a work of art. The transitions in this show are fantastic. It's so smooth, going from song to song to song. It has that similarity to Les Mis a little bit of just that basically everything is in singing rather than speaking, and it's so smooth. Everything goes so smoothly. So right off the bat, great transitions. It's just work of art. The songs themselves are fantastic, lyrically and instrumentally. The choices that were made for this show were fantastic of a way to capture and tell the story through the music. Just hands down, amazing songs. And not only that, it had some artistry and just the sense of the parallels to today. Just a lot of the things that are going on in our own culture. I mean, I've read some interviews where Lin-Manuel Miranda said it's very interesting to watch the show now today compared to like 4 years ago. And the things that were going on 4 years ago, there were aspects of the show that spoke to that, but now it even speaks to things today. And so that just shows you as a work of art, it stands the test of time. Like the Schuyler Sisters song, it captured both sides of the argument to go to war. One of Peggy's lines is, "It's bad enough there will be violence on our shores." And that feels similar to what you hear some people saying in regards to the violence going on in our own country. They don't want it to come to their own area, so they would rather just ignore it and not be part of it. Also, all of King George's songs sound similar to what we hear from our own leadership at times. The song that's titled Farmer Refuted, where Alexander Hamilton debates back and forth between the messenger from the king. The first line of that song sounds almost like our government today in regards to the Black Lives Matter movement. The line is, "Heed not the rabble who scream revolution. They have not your interests at heart. Chaos and bloodshed are not a solution. Don't let them lead you astray." Just very interesting, the parallels you see there. And then on top of that, the song Washington on Your Side that's in the second part, it almost seemed allegorical of the current political system in the parties, especially with this being an election year. And just the hatred you see going back and forth between the parties, between the Democrats and the Republicans. Like, it almost seemed like that song was an allegory to what we're seeing today. So yeah, The fact it can stand the test of time, it can speak at different years, and those are things you can just pull out of the show that link to what is going on in our culture today, shows it's a great work of art. The show itself has a lot of drama, love, action, tragedy, etc. It has something for everyone. Like, anyone can watch this show and they're going to feel like there was something in there that entertained them. There were a couple scenes that I felt were just works of art within themselves. The duel scene titled "The World Was Wide Enough." It was a piece of art with the slowing down and the speeding up, like that they had with Hamilton, where it's almost like his life was flashing through his eyes, or before his eyes, and like it's just the way that they used the stage, like the spinning floor added an extra dynamic that many musicals lack. Just being able to capture some things in a different way that most musicals can't, and like being able to use that as a way of maybe like speeding up and slowing down. And oh man, you got to see that. Like, if anything, you got to see that scene. And not only that scene, but the song "Satisfied," one of Angelica's songs, same thing. It was another work of art where it was reflecting on her first meeting with Hamilton, as she's reflecting on that during Hamilton and Eliza's wedding, and how it just transitioned back into that first scene when she met Hamilton, and then went and progressed all the way back up to the wedding from her perspective and what was going on in her mind. Fantastic piece of art. So with that being the case, I would give Hamilton in the category of artistry a 10 out of 10, hands down. And the next category is talent. This cast is extremely talented. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Each actor completely embodied their role within this show. And it shows, as an audience member, just that they did because you felt like you were there witnessing these things. Cast amazing. Out of everybody, King George was the highlight for me. He added great humor into the show that was needed because it does get pretty heavy at times. But every time he was on stage, I cracked up laughing. It was amazing. And I actually have a clip here just to show an example of that for you guys.
President John Adams, good luck.
So yeah, King George was the highlight for me. Easily my favorite character out of the whole cast, just from a acting perspective. Vocally, George Washington, Angelica, and Eliza stood above the rest completely, just from a singing standpoint. They have tremendous vocals. Oh man, like, I got chills during some of their songs of just what they were able to do. George Washington's voice is so booming and so captivating. And Angelica, she's able to pull off those riffs in her songs that just a lot of people, there's no way some people could do that. And on top of that, Eliza, she acted well, but as well, just her singing as well, was just great vocals. But I would be remiss if I did not bring up the character of Alexander Hamilton and talent. Lin-Manuel Miranda, he doesn't have the best voice. He has a perfectly good singing voice. But the thing with him is that he embodied Hamilton for this show. He made you feel what Hamilton was feeling, and he sucked you into the story because of that. So in the category of talent, I would give another 10 out of 10 for sure. But speaking of story is my third category. And right off the bat, I'm going to say, first, yes, there are historical inaccuracies, but that should totally be expected. This is a musical. There will be creative liberties taken to tell the story. So I'm not going to focus on those, as they don't detract from the story, in my opinion at least. So the first half of the story was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's inspiring. It's a poignant tale that is relevant for our world today. It's a great picture of the fight for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that some are still fighting for today. I love the first part. The second part, though, is a different story. To me, it dragged a bit in comparison to the first part. Surprisingly, when I looked, it's about the same length as the first part, but it felt that it was at least 30 minutes longer. Don't get me wrong, the second part has some good parts, but it could have been a tad shorter in my opinion. I mean, most of the time, the second act of a musical is shorter, so it was odd to see that it was the exact same length as the first part in Hamilton. But if I were to summarize the two parts in one word, the first part would be action, and the second would be tragedy, which actually is very Shakespearean. So just due to the little bit of drag of the second part, I would give the category of story a 7 out of 10. So now we come to the final category, which is just overall enjoyment. And this is where I think my opinion is going to get a little bit controversial. I mean, you'd think based off my score so far, you'd think I really enjoyed this musical. And yes, there were definitely parts I enjoyed. Like I've said already, it's a work of art. But overall, I kind of found Hamilton to just be a celebration of a man that trampled over others to create his own legacy, which was not something I actually enjoyed watching. Hamilton, the character, was a man who couldn't confess when he was wrong unless it was to protect himself. And that ultimately destroyed his life. I mean, he set a precedent for his son to not let anyone get away with speaking bad about those you represent, including yourself. And what that led to his son's early death. There was little growth in the Hamilton character. He only cared about his legacy no matter who it affected. He only admitted his wrongdoings out of desperation because he got caught, and he wasn't going to let the info come from somebody else. Not because he was remorseful, but so he could protect his own image. And honestly, that's the perfect example of a narcissist. Hamilton is not the hero of this story. I mean, you could argue that the true hero is Eliza. Some would say she had every right to leave Hamilton, but she forgave him and stuck with him. And not only that, after he died, she maintained his legacy. She kept his story alive. You see that in the finale of the Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story song. And she cared for others. They talk about in that song of how she went around and interviewed to keep Hamilton's legacy alive, asking a bunch of people questions, asking everyone who had an interaction with him, just different details of those interactions. And on top of that, she opened up the orphanage in New York and had a play in trying to end slavery. And it's like, so she cared for people. So, I mean, like I said, you could argue she's actually the true hero of the story. Again, the music is fantastic. If I was only reviewing the music, this show would easily get a 10 out of 10 for me. But overall, this is what I would say about the musical Hamilton. Hamilton is a work of art, no doubt about it. It will go down as one of the most artistic musicals ever. But it's a musical that I would say is similar to its main character. It tries to cover up Hamilton's wrongdoings by lifting up a narcissistic man to the level of a martyr for America and masking these wrongdoings in an inspirational story with the message that all can prosper in this world if they do whatever it takes to achieve your goals, even if that includes tearing down other people. So for overall enjoyment, I would score this musical of Hamilton as a 6 out of 10 for me. So if you do all the math and average that out, I would give Hamilton a final overall score of an 8 out of 10. It's definitely worth a watch, but it's not a must-see, in my opinion. There are some scenes that are worth seeing, but you don't need to see the whole thing. It's worth a watch, like I said, worth watching, but it's not a must-see. So that's my review on Hamilton. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. Definitely feel free to leave comments below. I'm sure a lot of you don't agree with me of how I've rated the show. Let me know about that. I'm not afraid to talk about it, and maybe you'll change my mind. Who knows? But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget, crush that like button and subscribe, and stay tuned as there are more reviews to come. This has been Jeremy on Take One Movie Reviews. Have a great day.